Hello and welcome to Daily Prelims Practice. Here we take up MCQs based on important articles and news from the Hindu and the Indian Express newspaper. Topics which we are going to cover today are displayed on your screen. Let's begin the discussion. Now let's start our session with our first question, which is based on this article which appeared on page number 17 in the Indian Express. The context of this article is that following the Reserve Bank's move to increase the repo rate last week, several banks have raised their marginal cost of funds based lending rate, that is MCLR, leading to a higher equated monthly installment for borrowers. Now as you can see that UPSC has already asked questions based on important economic concepts like statutory liquidity ratio came in year 2020. So here we have curated question based on another important concept, that is liquidity adjustment facility, that is LAF of RBI. Now what is liquidity adjustment facility? It refers to the Reserve Bank's operation through which it injects or absorbs liquidity into or from the banking system. It consists of repo rate, reverse repo rate, standing deposit facility and marginal standing facility. Now in this practice question, you have to identify the correct statements with respect to the liquidity adjustment facility. Now the first statement is repo rate is the rate at which RBI borrows money from commercial banks against collateral of eligible government securities. Now this statement is incorrect as repo rate refers to the interest rate at which RBI provides liquidity to banks against the collateral of government securities. So our first statement is incorrect. Now let's come to the second statement. Under the standing deposit facility route, the RBI would require to provide government securities as collateral to the banks. Now SDF works like reverse repo. However, SDF is different from reverse repo as under the SDF route, RBI would not be required to provide government securities as collateral to the banks. Hence, it would enable RBI to absorb huge amount of liquidity from the economy without government securities acting as a collateral. So our second statement is incorrect. Now let's come to the last statement. LF corridor has the marginal standing facility, that is MSF rate, as its upper bound and the standing deposit facility rate as its lower bound. Now this statement is correct as LAF corridor has the marginal standing facility rate as its upper bound ceiling and the standing deposit facility rate as its lower bound ceiling, with the policy rate in the middle of the corridor. So at present the MSF rate is placed at 25 basis point, that is 25% above the policy rate, and SDF is placed at 25 basis point below the policy rate. So our correct answer is option C, that is 3 only. Answer of this PYQ is option B, that is 2 only. Now inspiration of our next question is this article which featured on page number 9 in the Hindu newspaper. The context of this article is that another attempted transgression by Chinese military, this time in the Tawang sector in the eastern section of the India-China boundary, has served a reminder of the precarious state of affairs along the line of actual control, that is LAC. A crisis which began in April 2020 with PLA transgressions in Ladakh in the western sector of the boundary has now appeared to have widened to Arunachal Pradesh. Now, this article is not much relevant for your prelims examination, but the important takeaway from this article for your prelims is important passes, mountain peaks, etc. based on this region. Like this question, based on important peaks, came in year 2022. So here we have framed question based on important passes. So now let's come to the practice question. Here you have to identify the correct pairs. Under one column you are provided with important passes and in another you are provided with region. So let's identify the correct pair with the help of map. The first will start with Lipu Lake, that is here. Lipu Lake is a Himalayan pass situated at tri-junction of India, Nepal and Tibet. It is located in Indian state of Uttarakhand and is one of the routes for the pilgrimage to Mount Kailash and Mansarovar in Tibet. So this option is correct. It connects Uttarakhand and Tibet. Now next come to the next pass, that is Shipki Pass, which is here. It is a mountain pass in the state of Himachal Pradesh. The river Satluj, which enters India from Tibet near this pass. The pass is on the border between the Kinnaur district in the state of Himachal Pradesh and the Nagari Prefecture in Tibet, China. So our second option is incorrect. Now let's come to the next pass, that is Lanakpla, that is here. It is a mountain pass in the disputed Askaichen region. It connects Ladakh to Tibet. So our first option is correct. And the last one is Nathula Pass. It is a mountain pass in the Dongya range of the Himalayas between Tibet and Indian state of Sikkim. So our second option is incorrect. So here our correct answer is option A, that is 1 and 4 only. Answer of this PYQ is option B. Now our next question is based on this article which appeared on page 4 in the Hindu newspaper. This article is related to ongoing lobbying among newly elected MLAs in Himachal Pradesh for securing cabinet berths. Now, structure, functioning, powers and privileges and issues arising out of these of state legislature is important for your prelims examination as well as for your mains examination. In 2019, UPSC has asked question based on the functioning of legislative assembly of a state. So on the similar line, we have curated question based on State Council of Minister. Now let's come to the practice question. Here you have to identify the correct statements with reference to the State Council of Minister. The first statement is, the Constitution caps the upper limit on the total number of ministers including Chief Minister. It does not mention the lower limit for the same. Now, according to Article 164 and subclause 1A, the total number of ministers, including Chief Minister, in the Council of Ministers in a state shall not exceed 15% of the total number of members of the Legislative Assembly of that state. It lays down another provision also, that is that the number of ministers, including Chief Ministers in a state, shall not be less than 12. This provision was added by the 91st Constitutional Amendment Act of 2003. So our first statement is incorrect. Now let's come to the second statement. As per the Constitution, if salaries and allowances of the ministers has not been determined by the state legislature, it shall be specified by the governor. Now again, according to Article 164, subclause 5, the salaries and allowances of ministers shall be such as legislature of state may from time to time by law determine, and until the legislature of the state so determine shall be as specified in the second schedule. So again our second statement is incorrect. So our answer of this question is option D, neither 1 nor 2. Answer of this PYQ is option A. Now, inspiration of our next question is this article which featured on page 5 in the Hindu newspaper. According to this article, the District Tourism Promotion Council Kozhikode has applied for a GI tag for the famous Bepur Uru. Bepur Uru is a wooden ship handicrafted by skilled artisans and carpenters in Bepur, Kerala. The Urus are purely made of premium wood without using any modern techniques. Now why we have taken this article? Because in year 2015, UPSC has asked question about geographical indication, that is GI tag. So here we have curated question based on the same. In this practice question, you are provided with two columns. In one column, you are provided with the products accorded with GI tag, and another you are provided with the states. So here you have to identify the correct pair using the code given below. The first option is Cherial painting. This cherial painting is a styled version of Nakashi art rich in local motifs peculiar to the Telangana. So it's not Andhra, it's Telangana. The scrolls are painted in a narrative format much like a film roll or a comic strip, depicting stories from Indian mythology and intimately tied to the shorter stories from the Puranas and epics. This cherial scroll painting received intellectual property rights protection, commonly called geographical indication, that is GI tag, in the year 2007. Now let's come to the next option, that is Thewa art. Thewa is a special art of jewelry making which involves fusing of intricately worked out sheet gold on molten glass. It evolved in Pratapgarh district, Rajasthan. So again this option is incorrect. It received the GI tag between 2013 and 14. Now let's come to the third option, that is Purulia Chow mask. Now the Chow mask is a traditional cultural heritage of Purulia in the Indian state of West Bengal. So this option is correct. It earned GI tag in 2018. So only third pair is correct. So our answer is option C, 3 only. Answer of this PYQ is option C. Now let's come to the next practice question. Here question says, recently 2-pillar text package was in news and it is an initiative of First option is European Union. Second, Financial Action Task Force. Third, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, that is OECD. And the last one is Group of 7. Now, why we have taken this question? As UPSC has been asking question based on terms occurring in news. Like in 2016, there was question about base erosion and profit shifting. Now, let's come back to the practice question. Now, according to this article, which appeared on page 10 in the Hindu newspaper, India shares Aadhaar rollout experience with G20 members. Now, apart from this information, this article also talks about two-pillar and tax package. Now, that OECD today published detailed rules to assist in the implementation of a landmark reform to the international tax system, which will ensure multinational enterprises will be subject to a minimum 15% tax rate from 2023. The new Pillar 2 model rules provide governments a precise template for taking forward the two-pillar solution to address the tax challenges arising from digitalization and globalization of the economy agreed in October 2021 by 137 countries and jurisdictions under the OECD G20 Inclusive Framework on Base Erosion and Profit Sharing, that is BEPS. Now, you know the answer of this question, that two-pillar tax package is an initiative of Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, that is OECD. So our answer is option C. Answer of this PYQ is option B. Now our next question is on this article, which featured on page 13 in the Indian Express. This article talks about Kashi Tamil Sangam, and this will culminate on December 16 in the world's oldest living city, that is Kashi, also known as Varanasi. Also, Kashi is the cultural capital of India, whereas Tamil Nadu and Tamil culture are at the center of India's antiquity and glory. Now, why we have taken this article? Because Bhakti movement started in the 7th century and 8th century in Kerala and Tamil Nadu, which is very important for your prelims examination, as UPSC has covered different aspects of religious movement during medieval period. Like this question based on medieval literature came in year 2022. So here we have curated question based on the same theme, that is literary work of various medieval Indian poets and saints. So in this practice question, you have to find out that how many pairs given above are correctly matched. Now, Vachna Sahitya was composed by Basava in Kannada language. So our first pair is incorrect and fourth one is also incorrect, as Jayadev composed Gita Govinda. Next, Ramcharitmanas was composed by Tulsidas in Avdi language. So this pair is correct. Next, Thiruvalluvar wrote Tirukkural in Tamil language and Ramananda wrote Yog Sintamani in Hindi. So only one pair is correct. So our answer is option A. Answer of this PYQ is option A. That's all for today. Stay tuned for more such updates.